This person says, "Hi guys, looking for some advice here. It's almost impossible to find any advice on the internet on how to assemble a portfolio after you've been graduated in the industry for a couple of years, in their case 3 years. Surely the process is different for a designer with some college experience versus a senior in college looking for a job. I'm looking for my second full-time job soon and having a tough time deciding what to include. I listened to your portfolio podcast recording, but I'm still conflicted. It's easy to include renderings and graphics from RFP designs, but I feel like that holds less value after I've been in the industry for a couple of years. I feel like the employers want to see a technical and practical demonstration of knowledge, which I have. Do I include wall sections and details in my portfolio, or just bring to the interview a CD set to show technical competence and keep that as a separate talking piece from the polished, sexy portfolio? Sorry for the long question. Love the show. Thanks in advance." So some quick thoughts. So we answered this question sort of in the interview recording about bringing in different materials. You don't need to bring a full CD set, as we said. Just bring it shrunken down, 11 by 17, pull out the best pages from the CD set, bring that to the interview.
And the ones you worked on.
The other ones you worked on. As far as like what to do differently with the portfolio, so my feeling is that it is interesting when you are at the professional point in your career that this person's at, where you're kind of like between two worlds.
Like junior architect.
You know, like, do I still do a really cool, sleek, like hyper designed graphic portfolio, or do I not do that because that looks like a student did it, sort of? Or do I do this, more technical thing, but I'm not quite there yet? So my feeling is that the portfolio can be open and broad enough to absorb different types of information on the spectrum of being more, let's say, academic to more professional, let's call it that. So I have no problem with people including that range of information. I think it's totally fine to have some more technical things in the portfolio, because the heavy hitting, the heavy lifting portion of documents that are going to convey your technical expertise is going to be that 11 by 17 set. It's separate, right? But maybe you don't want to rely just on that because there's a chance the employer is not going to see it. So I think putting some of it in the portfolio is totally fine. But as long as that spread is graphically very clearly communicating what it's about, which is more technical things, that's where I think it's dangerous in a way to include that stuff, because it's less sexy, we can say, and you don't want someone to go to that page and then start talking about conceptual issues or design issues when that wasn't your intention. So that's where I think the graphics and the layout needs to like clearly show what this page is about. Do you know what I mean?
You can have a giant window detail that you've designed if you feel like that's a great conversation point,
right?
And like you're super proud of it, and it's like revolutionary the way you did it, and sure. If it's not, and you just want to have someone there as like sprinkles to show them a hint that you have experience, you can, but it really has to be all put together within the layout of that project in the portfolio. And also, be careful which one you pick. Like if you put a stupid, I don't know, floor transition detail, like no one gives a fuck.
Yeah, it has to be something that looks
like
good
you
on the page.
It if it makes the cut to be in your portfolio, it really has to be a drawing or something that you feel comfortable talking with, that you've done, that you understand, and that is not like a standard detail like every office has.
The other thing I would say is that what you can do is, I think text in a portfolio is important, and I think that's also a really good place to show that you have professional experience. So if you worked on projects, I think including the stats of a project, the square footage, the cost, who the client was, depending on the kind of privacy agreements, who the client was, what they were looking for, how you problem solved, your role in the team, what consultants you worked with, did you do the CDs, did you do the detailing, did you put together the spec book or something like that. More like spreadsheet Excel kind of feeling information can be really powerful, because it's what a much more established architect would include. They won't be like an architect with 30 years of experience is not concerned with doing big flashy graphics. They're gonna have some good rendering someone else did, they didn't do them probably, and stats of the project. Was it in or over budget? How long did it took? The construction phases. So if you have that stuff and that's under your belt, showcase it. and don't be afraid. And just because it doesn't look sexy, it doesn't mean it's not important. In fact, it probably should look, if anything, graphically like it's not trying to be that, not trying to be sexy.
Yeah, and like, I don't know if you have experience doing CA, or you want to be doing CA in the next office you worked at, and you've been, going on site every Friday, and you've been taking pictures, and you've been reviewing drawings, then it makes complete sense to have, I don't know, a spread about a project where you show that stuff. You show like you sitting on the concrete that was poured, and like, right. A sketch of a detail that you solved, or, because it's related to your experience, and you want to bring that up in your conversation. You don't want to be hired to be a CAD monkey. Like, that's not the goal. And also, if you've been working, it's understood by everybody that you already have those bases. I think
it's a matter of figuring out ways to display them, though, and to show them.
Yeah, of course.
And I think there is a difference. Like when you have no professional experience, you're relying purely on your design skills to sell yourself. And that's where like custom fonts, custom graphics, everything's custom, right? Because you're conveying your value through the customization of the graphics, right? But after you get to a certain point, your value is not, no one is not that. You're not selling yourself based on what cool font you chose or how you lay out like weird looking texts and things. It's just like the stats that you've worked on. And this kind of, I mean, it doesn't really tie to it, but it does remind me of like the Buzz Aldrin business card, which we talked about in the last recording that came out, where like Buzz Aldrin was an astronaut, and supposedly has a business card, and I think on either the front or the back it says Buzz Aldrin, and on the other side it simply says astronaut. That's it. And if you're an astronaut, that works. If you're not an astronaut, it doesn't work. But it's the point that I think at some point when you've achieved enough things, you don't need to dress it up and make it look fancy and add all this flourish. In this case, for the portfolio, I'm talking about graphic flourishes. Not necessary. If you worked on a 12 million square foot project and you did the CA and it cost X amount of dollars, like there's no need to. That's the value. That's it. It's just pure information.
Yeah, I think you're totally right. And the portfolio might not be as sexy as a very conceptual, well illustrator designed, student project, but it shows the time you've been putting in working at those places on this project.
Yeah,
and it's almost like, I don't know, some sort of professional diary about the projects you've worked on, and a little less about how you represent your work and whatever. I
mean, one way to figure out what this stuff is just to think about what a student would have, and then think about all the stuff that they don't, or things that you have under your belt that they don't, and just put that on the page. Or
even just think about, okay, what do I remember the most about this project? What is the things that I've learned from this project? This project was super challenging because the client decided to redesign the whole thing, like once it was under construction. Well, you need to express that. Or it was very challenging because the building was occupied, so we had to do like sequence, construction, and we had to be very smart with the scheduling of the project. Well, you can express that. It doesn't need to be like renderings and models and things. It could be like other things that communicate more important aspect of the project.